I'm exhausted. I'm tired of being, overly flexible, compromising so much. I'm tired of being able to balance and have my significant other be a priority. Why can't they be a priority for me back? What is the problem here?
Did you push record?
Thanks for tuning into Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life. Here we go, Silka.
Hi, Paige. Paige, we want to continue our discussion on love, relationships, dating, etc. What we want to focus on today, which you pointed out to me off camera, that keeps coming up is especially for women of our vintage, that there seems to be a theme that we don't feel like a priority often, be it a long-term relationship or even starting new relationships. Why is that such an issue, and what do we do about it?
Well, we're talking about our generation, but I also see it in the generations underneath us as well. So some people are going to disagree with this, and oh well, this is just what I've seen. This is whatever. So in our generation, we have to remember that we grew up in a time when it was very male dominated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And women had to fit into a man's world and become more hyper flexible, more hyper compromising, putting themselves last, taking care of children, being in a career. And men, it wasn't so much, they didn't have to learn to be as flexible. They didn't have to learn to compromise as much because we were doing it all. And that has started to change. And women are saying, F this. I'm exhausted. I'm tired of being, overly flexible, compromising so much. I'm tired of being able to balance and have my significant other be a priority. Why can't they be a priority for me back? What is the problem here? The problem is if you've never learned to do something and you haven't practiced that muscle for all these years, to have to step in and use a muscle that you haven't practiced is uncomfortable. You don't know how to do it. Because I've had men come to me and go, I don't understand. What am I doing? What do I need to do? Like they're clueless because they haven't had to practice that muscle, or they have to be taught how to do it. And women now are like, I'm not wasting my time and energy teaching you something. You have got to learn it on your own. Go get help from a coach, a therapist, to how to learn for it, learn how to do it. So for women, and I do talk more about women because I see it more that women go through this, more so than men do, because they talk about it a lot more. So how do you even know that you're not a priority? Women know when they're not a priority, when everything else comes before you, whether it's career, friends, family, where you're compromising your time and saying, okay, I won't do this so I can do this with you. Okay, you want to watch this, I'll watch this, but you don't want to watch this with me. Oh, you want me to put time aside? Okay, I'll do this, but where's it come to me? I mean, it's very clear for women as to when they don't feel like they're important. And then that leaves women feeling like, well, wait a minute, how come I'm giving so much, but I'm not getting back? So I'll just take a pause there for a minute, Silka.
Yeah. Well, I can identify with a lot of that.
All women can.
I also, in not necessarily in defense of the men, but in maybe awareness for us, is that I will readily admit that I play into that.
And a lot of people do that. And it's something that you've just learned how to do. And then it's also about fear. If I step back and ask for more, are you going to get angry? Are you going to leave me? And what that does is it pushes down self-esteem of what, wait a minute, you are just as important. You have every priority. And it's kind of, again, teaching the other person to take out that muscle and learn the muscle in a different way. Because think about it. If you've been doing something on your life and it's easy, and all of a sudden you have to do something that's hard, it's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What? We had this dance we're doing. Why are you changing the dance? This is too complicated.
Right.
So it's learning to change the dance a little bit.
When you said earlier, and this is, where I say, or why I said that really we women have to voice that in order for the man perhaps to
Totally.
even know that we feel that way.
Yes.
But when you said them, that they're not used to doing it. I mean, it's I think we first have to voice it before they can really do anything about it, unless they hear this
Well,
conversation and go, oh, I wonder if I'm not treating her as a priority.
well, you have to voice it. And if you voice it in anger, it's not going to be heard. And most of the time, things get voiced in anger instead of times when things are going well, saying, hey, you know what? I've given some thought. You are very important to me. And I love being with you, and I will compromise some things for you, but I don't always feel like it goes the other way. Can we talk about how that can shift and change? And let me give you specifics
Mm-hmm.
as to what I need and what that would look like. Because a man's brain, they need specifics. You do not give a generality because it won't go anywhere. And that's just how their brain works. It's being very, very specific on what you need and what that would look like and speaking to it.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, so many women say, Paige, I have been saying it over and over and over again. I've said it. I've written it. I've drawn it. I've acted it out. I've painted it. They're not getting it. And that's a whole other issue. So that's a time that you need to kind of go into doing some kind of couples work as to, why is somebody not hearing that, not choosing to want to hear it? What's the wall? What's it reminding that man of that maybe they tried to do before? There's always something about it. And there's also really good books because, we've talked about love languages. What's each other's love language? You really want to figure out what's your love language and what's your significant other's love language. That's another component to kind of talk about as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's complex, and I mean I've struggled with that all my life because I was raised the woman takes care of the man. It's not, if you have got to make sure that your husband is happy, and it's amazing how that has stuck with me all my life. And like I said, I recognize when I do it, and a lot of times I don't speak up. And you're right, it is a fear based,
Mhm.
because you don't know if what kind of action you need to take based on the reception that you get with voicing it.
That's why you voice it when things are going well. And hey, can we talk about this? Because it's really hurting me right now. And I love you so much that I really need you to hear me. And these are the things that I need. I mean, and I've given this to my clients and my own husband. My husband has a little thing stuck on his desk that says, because this is what he needs. He's a very academic, and my husband, logical brain.
Hmm.
So he needs, okay, what are the steps so Paige feels like a priority? What do I need to remember? And for him, that helps him because he's got a logical brain. And the thing is, after he does it a while, then it's natural, and then the heart follows with it. So, there's so many creative ways that men can ask, hey, don't get mad at me if I forget. Can I put on a sticky? And women will say to me, can you believe it? He has to write it down. And I'm like, look, if you want something to shift and change, sometimes just writing it down as a reminder. Remember, this is a muscle that hasn't been practiced. You go to the gym and you practice the muscle over and over again. What's the difference between maybe writing down a very brief, short list of three things that will make you feel like a priority? Have him stick it somewhere so he can see it over and over again. This is not going to be something that builds up overnight, just like a muscle isn't going to be something that builds up overnight.
Yeah. Well, we're coming. I do like this topic. I really do.
We could talk about this for a long
Yeah,
time.
and I do want to acknowledge that it can go it's not just women. It just tends to come up more probably because we talk about it more. And as you said, in our age group, we've been conditioned to
Yes.
fall into this more. But it can certainly go both ways. And so what
Yes.
we've discussed, if are men listening, and we have lots of men listening, if you feel like this is happening, then yeah, talk to your significant other. Paige, how would you like to end this?
Just that nothing's easy when you're trying to change a new habit or step into something that's different, and it's going to look messy. And I specifically tell women all the time, if you have a significant other that's trying and it's messy, look at the love around their trying and that it's messy. And really take a look at How many things do you really need to feel like you're a priority? Because there might be so many other good things that your significant other does. And if you're always focusing what they're not doing, that's what's always going to be in your face of what they're not doing. So remember that too. But there's creative ways to kind of work on this within a couple as well.
Yeah, no, great point is focus on the, and I do try to do so thank you for pointing that out too, Paige. I will, link obviously to a lot of different articles that talk about this too. We will link to some of our previous segments in which this came up, and we'll see you next time on Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
For your second act of life.
Bye.
Bye.
If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right over here. Just click on through to YouTube, and when you see the little bell next to the subscribe button, hit that too, and we'll notify you every time we launch a new video. See you next time.